Welcome back. So today we are going to look at how to write a conclusion for your critical essay. And let's begin. Okay, so in terms of your conclusion, in terms of the steps for your conclusion, is as follows. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, now as you sort of write down the steps, so you should be writing these steps down. Okay, as you write down the steps for the conclusion, what I'm going to do is just pause the video. So write down the steps, pause the video, write down the steps, and then come back and I'm going to explain a couple things to you. Okay, welcome back. So what you need to know about a conclusion. So the first question we want to ask is, what exactly is a conclusion? What does a conclusion do? So a conclusion is the end of the essay. And what a conclusion does, okay, is primarily it does two things. One is it restates the question, okay? It restates the question. It gives the question again to the reader, so it reminds the reader of the question and the focus of the essay, okay? Just like you did in your introduction. And then number two, the primary thing that a conclusion does, the main thing it does, okay, is it summarizes what you've written in your essay. So the purpose of the conclusion is to tie up everything that you've put together in your essay and to sort of summarize it in one place. So the way that you know you've got a good conclusion is, or the way that you know you've got a good essay is you should be able to read your introduction, read your conclusion, and have a sort of very good picture of what your essay contains. So I should be able to read your conclusion and have a good picture of the main points you've made and sort of your position and your the points you've made, your position, and sort of like a general idea of like your analysis on the text in response to the question. So your conclusion should be such that someone could flick to the end of your essay, read the conclusion, and have a good sort of idea about what your essay is talking about. So that's just something to keep in mind as we go ahead and do our conclusions. So in terms of what to include in the conclusion itself, okay, what your conclusion is going to do is it's going to start out just like your introduction by naming the text, naming the writer, and again quoting the question. Then what it's going to do is, again, just like your introduction, is it's going to state what the essay was focused on. This would be the specific focus, yeah, from your plan, what the essay was focused on. And then, okay, what the conclusion is going to do is it's going to summarize the main point or points that were made in each of your main body paragraphs. Now, you're most likely going to get each of these points from the point after your analysis. So for example, in your word choice analysis, after you've done the this suggests, when you go on to the this shows part, that's most likely where you're going to get the points that you're going to bring up in your conclusion. It's basically what was the main kind of point made, your main sort of analytical point or point of explanation that you made in your paragraph, the points you made in your paragraphs. You want to basically list those. And again, like I said, by reading your conclusion, I should be able to have sort of a good picture of like your main sort of argument, your position, your answer to the question. I should have like a good idea of what it is you exactly are saying, just by reading your conclusion. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and we'll write a sort of conclusion together. And then in the video, in the lesson that's coming next, excuse me, in the lesson that's coming soon, coming next, what I'm going to do, okay, is after I give you some sort of pointers just about if you're writing a media essay, after that lesson, the final kind of lesson is going to be writing an essay together. So we're going to put all the pieces together, and then we're going to create sort of an entire essay together. Okay, so for now, let's go ahead and write a conclusion. So again, we'll just use visiting hour, and we will focus on the question which we have been focusing on about powerful emotion, and we'll focus on the specific emotion of sadness. Okay, so we begin visiting hour, visiting hour by McCaig. So name the text, name the writer. By Mac. Visiting hour by McCaig, name the text, name the writer, and then give, quote the question, is a text which, and what was the exact question again? Question was, features a powerful emotion. So literally what you've written in your introduction, you can literally write the same thing in your conclusion in terms of the beginning part. Is a text which features powerful emotion. So this is literally word for word what the question asked. And then I just mention the specific focus. So this essay, and you can use this as your starter sentence, this essay focused on the powerful emotion of sadness, which comes about, and I'm just going to explain again, this is part of our specific focus. If you go back to the planning video, what we said about the reason behind the sadness, which comes about due to the speaker visiting his loved one in hospital and seeing her slowly pass away. Okay, which sort of includes the idea that she's not well, so on. Okay, and then we go ahead, and now we get to the real sort of unique part. So everything sort of before this was just an introduction. Okay, so the shortcut way to remember how to write a conclusion is just master introduction, and then write an introduction, and then add on a summary of your essay. That's how you think about a conclusion. So all we're going to do now is we're going to say it did this by. Okay, and now we're going to go back to the paragraph that we wrote, and we're going to find 2 points, at least 2 points from here, 2 of the main kind of points that we made, and then we're going to put them into our conclusion. So we just look at this, and we look at sort of what is the first kind of main point that we made. And again, most of the time it's going to be from around here. So after you do your word choice, it's gonna be on the this shows part. It's the part where you're connecting back to the question, you're explaining. So this shows the emotion of sadness as a speaker is saddened by what he sees as it reminds him loved one is living in these conditions and they have to endure and there's no ways of escaping them. Okay, so we just say it did this by excuse me. It did this by describing how the speaker visits his loved one in hospital. Hospital, and sees the terrible conditions around her that she has to endure. and that she cannot escape from. So do you notice I'm just literally like rephrasing what I said in that main paragraph and then this shows part, okay? And then all I do, here's a little trick, you just put a semicolon, okay? And now I can add the other things. Semicolon is just this, it's the dot with the little comma, okay, which allows me to add other things. It's like a replacement of a full stop. It means I can keep going. So that, what I just did there was this, okay? That was one main point. Now I'm gonna look for my second main point. And again, I'm gonna look for the part after my quote analysis, okay? And I'm gonna look in the this shows kind of part. So we have shows the text but becomes depressed. Speaker becomes depressed after seeing someone who's recently passed away. It reminds them that their loved one will also soon pass away and there's nothing they can do to stop it happening. So now I'm gonna mention that. Okay. So it did this by describing how the speaker was his loved one, Okay. And by describing, so again, I'm just adding on by describing how the speaker saw someone who had passed away and how this made him reflect on how his loved one. And again, you notice how simply I'm writing, yeah? The language is extremely simple. It's very easy to understand. And that's what you want to aim for, okay? At least at the beginning, at the stage you are at right now, in terms of learning how to do this, aim for basic, easy to understand, okay, language. I'm not using any slang or any sort of informal stuff, but at the same time, I'm not using any very complicated words, any extremely long words. I'm just using sort of basic language because I'm focused more on expressing myself clearly and communicating a real point, yeah, communicating meaning in a sort of easy to understand kind of way. Okay, so you want to do the same kind of thing, okay? And again, don't focus on sort of the complex stuff, just keep it simple. Okay, so speaker saw someone who had passed away, and by describing how the speaker saw someone who had passed away and how this made him reflect on how his loved one would also soon pass away. And now there, and again, you see how like even the way the sentences are sort of joined together, I'm just using and, I'm not doing anything fancy. Okay, nothing fancy going on. You don't need to do anything fancy, at least when you're learning. When you get to the mastery level, then you can make your sentences, your phrases, you can make all these things more complicated. But before you've mastered, okay, until you actually master the language and master the technique, you want to keep it simple. Okay, keep it simple. Okay, so his loved one has also soon passed away, and now he had no ability to stop that from happening. And again, I'm gonna put another. You can either I can put a full stop here, or I could put another semicolon. Okay, we'll just go with the full stop, just because we're gonna go into the next paragraph after this. But you see, look how long the conclusion is already. And this is just by summarizing main points I've already made. So if you look, it's 110, yeah? So by time we add the other two paragraphs, I'm not going to add them because I haven't written them yet, but I'll add them when we get to the writing the full essay. By the time I add those two, the conclusion will probably be around 300 words, something like that. Now, it's very important to note, excuse me, it's very important to note that the conclusion does not add any new information. Okay, that's important to remember. All you're doing is summarizing and connecting back to what you've already written. So just like in RUAE and in the effective conclusion lesson, you notice that your technique was to show how the writer in the conclusion connects back to something he said before. Now you are the writer, and so what you need to do is connect back to things that you've said before. which means writing your conclusion is extremely easy because you're not writing anything new. It doesn't require any thinking. All you have to do is summarize and re-say the things that you have said before. Okay? So that is a conclusion. That is the conclusion. And as I said, the next lesson is going to be just a few kind of tips if you're doing a media-based essay, a film essay. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to be writing an essay together. And then if you look at the sort of final step, it's got practice questions, it's got practice essay questions, past paper questions that you should use, okay, to write your own essays. And remember, the key to all of this is just practice and repetition. The more you practice, the more repetition you do, the better you'll get at all of this. Okay? Good work.